where everything is about the self and independence and freedom, and as though somehow a guru were making us less than free. Which is actually a tragic irony, because a guru is the one who brings us toward freedom. We walk in slaves. We're slaves of our egos, we're slaves of our ignorance, we're slaves of our upbringing, we're slaves of all of the filters through which we go through our lives. What we think about ourselves, what we think about the world. The guru is actually the one who frees us of that. The word guru literally means the remover of darkness and the bringer of light. That's actually what the Sanskrit word means. And so a guru is one who removes your darkness and brings light. But now that darkness is not a darkness of the self. It's not that the guru is the one with the magic wand who takes you as a miserable, sinful, impure, dark being and goes zap and you're light. It's not that. The core of who you are is light, is divinity, is purity. That is the fundamental bottom line of the Indian spiritual tradition and teachings. Who you are is light, who you are is purity, who you are is divinity. The messes we are in, the suffering we go through, is because of that which is not self. That which we put onto the self, the ego, the attachment to the physical body. So if I think I'm my body, then I am where it's been. I am all the things that have happened to it. I am what it looks like. I am its culture. I am its religion. I am its relationships. And if I think I am the body, then I'm also going to have all kinds of complexes about that. God, I wish I were as pretty as that one. Or God, I'm so much prettier than that one. Or God, I wish I were as smart as that one. Or God, I'm 10 times smarter than this one. Whichever way it goes, the ego is insidious on both levels. I'm the worst, I'm the best. Both are a problem. Because what both of them do is pull you out of the truth of who you are, which is, I am. So regardless of what the fill in the blank is, the worst, the best, in either case, I've been pulled out of the truth of who I am. And that's where the suffering begins. This is where anger and lust and greed and jealousy and judgment and all of the nonsense from which we suffer most of our lives is due to that ignorance. And so the darkness is not a darkness of self. It's a darkness of ignorance. And the guru is the one who shines the light with which we can see. And the importance of this is that most of us can't see on our own. Not because we're stupid. Not because we don't have that light within us. We do. But simply because the ego is so incredibly insidious and so incredibly brilliant at convincing us that it is everything else. And so you're on a spiritual path, you're doing your meditation, you're doing your yoga, you're doing your study. The ego is the one that comes in and says, I'm really getting somewhere. I think I should be a teacher. I'm so much better than all those other, I'm actually so much humbler than all those other teachers, right? And And these are the games that the ego plays. And that's just one example. The ego is infinitely creative. An infinite number of new costumes and masks and scripts. And I mean, the ego can be anything you want it to be. And so this is the dilemma, is what the guru really does. The example that I always use about it is the clay on a potter's wheel. Is the guru's not, as I said, taking the magic wand and turning darkness to light. The guru is just showing us the light of who we really, really are. Pulling out of us that which we can be. So we have it all in us. We're great clay. But like a good artist is able to take a lump of really good clay and turn it into something that's actually beneficial for the world. Whether it's a cup or a bowl or a vase or whatever the potter may be making on its wheel. But it's not always fun. And a lot of times you feel spun around. And then it gets really hot. And so a lot of us think, well, forget it, I don't need a guru. And if it's only a teacher, you're right, you don't. Because these days we have Google, and you literally can learn whatever you want to know online. I mean, seriously. If you've got the sincerity and the attentiveness and the time, you could learn anything online now. Except how to see that light within yourself. Because the dilemma is that it's actually not of the mind. So the mind learns things, but it keeps the world at an arm's length. That's just how the mind works. It sees things, it understands things by looking at them. But spirituality is all about the heart, the spirit, the soul, the self, the essence. And as long as I'm using my mind to get there, I'll never get there. Because the mind is all about understanding myself from that arm's length away. So whether I'm holding the world at an arm's length or I'm holding myself at an arm's length, if I'm using my mind, I'll never get there. And this is where in meditation we have to drop into the self, into the heart, into the essence. But if I'm going at it from my mind, it's very hard. The mind cannot simultaneously undo itself. And this is where the guru comes in. It's helping us get into that space inside. That space of light. Showing us the light of us. You know, a lot of times people will ask, well, how do I know if a guru is right? And how do I know if, how do you find the right one? That's always the second part of that question. And of course, there's no cookie cutter way. We all respond differently to different masters, to different situations. But there's one really good way to know that a guru is not the right one, where if it's all about the guru, if the light is all about see the light in me, not the right one. The guru is the one who's removing your darkness of ignorance so you can see the light of yourself. Any guru who's simply focused on getting you to see the light in him or her is one I would turn and walk away from. The guru is showing you the light of you, the truth of you, the divinity of you. And this is where they keep turning us back to ourselves. But not our lowercase s selves, not our stories, not our histories, not our dramas, but our uppercase s self. The true self, the divine self, The Guru's the one always showing you that. And that's where it's so important to have one. Because the ego tends to prevent us from experiencing that. It's scary. The ego's got a lot attached to staying in charge. And so this is where the Guru comes in and enables us to really see that light. And your second question was about studying yoga in this sacred land. Well, this is an incredible area. It's an incredible energy. But remember that yoga means union. And so it's not about, oh, your Trikonasana is going to be so much better. You're going to get your legs spread apart so much better. You'll get your palm on the ground, no problem. Just come to Rishikesh. Nose to your knees in Uttanasana, no problem. Yeah. Just go to Rishikesh. The energy will make it happen. It's not that. Yoga is union. It's union of our self with the divine, which also is ourself. And so the yoga that's here is a yoga that takes you into union with yourself. And this is a land of letting go. And so tonight in the Aarti, most of you were there, you heard me talk about the fire ceremony. This is what we do every night, that yagna ceremony. To Ganga. Ganga's the purifier. She's the one people go in to have a bath to remove lifetimes of karma. When I first came, Puja Swamiji was always talking about give it to Ganga, give it to Ganga. Not external trash, but internal trash. Your anger, your pain, your expectations, your grudges, give it to Ganga. Give everything to Ganga. So this is a land of let it go, give it to the fire, give it to the river. Because all of that is what's keeping us from becoming one. The oneness is not about, oh, you're going to become something new. You'll come to Rishikesh and suddenly you'll become divine. It's not about that. You are divine. It's about you're going to come to Rishikesh, and in this sacred land, you're going to finally have the courage to let go of that which is not self, but which you're holding on to. Your story, your drama, your pain, your grudges, your obstacles. All of the excuses of why you're not stepping up to the plate of your life. All of that makes you think you are your story or you are your history. You're going to let go of that. Whether you give it to a fire, whether you give it to the river, whether you give it to the soil or the wind, whether you give it in meditation or you give it in puja or you give it in prayer or you give it in a walk on the banks of Ganga. This is a land of letting go. And that's where the union comes. If I've got two pieces of Velcro that stick together, and if between them I stick something, a piece of fabric, some Scotch tape, whatever it may be, they're not gonna stick. But the problem is not with my Velcro. The problem is with that thing in between that's keeping them from sticking together. And when you think about that union with the divine, it's not about, oh, I need to be a better piece of Velcro to become one with God. It's about, I need to remove that whatever it is that's over me, that's keeping me from properly sticking. And that is all of this stuff. That's what keeps me separate. And so, in this land, allow that union to happen. You can always pick back up your stories. I mean, it's important to remember. It sounds funny, but it's actually important in a way for the ego to remember. You can always go back to being exactly how you used to be. Rishikesh isn't going to follow you home and say, Eddie, but you gave that to the fire. I saw you. What are you doing? If you want to go back to being exactly as you were before you came, you are free to do that. And again, as silly as it sounds, it's a bit important just for the ego part to understand, yeah, I've still got free will. This becoming one, becoming divine, letting go, okay, I think I could do that for maybe a week. And that's okay. You don't have to think about it as in forever. Right? In the 12-step programs, giving up alcohol or drugs or anything, it's all about one day at a time. So whether you're giving up alcohol or drugs, or your addiction to your story, or your identity, or your challenges, or your obstacles, or all of that, it's all an addiction. And so instead of telling yourself, never again, I'll never again identify as that, I'll never again act like this, I'll never again do that, just think about, well, God, here I am in this sacred land. I wonder what it would be like if for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks I could let this go. What would I be like if I weren't the stupid one, the useless one, the fat one, the ugly one, the drug addict, the alcoholic, the child of a drug addict, the child of an alcoholic, whatever my story may be? If I weren't that, how would that be for a week? Just allow yourself, because that's the union. I have to give up the stuff that keeps me from being able to unite. So whatever games of my ego it is, whatever games of my history it is, whatever grudges I'm holding on to, whatever expectations I think, if I get that fulfilled, then I'll be okay. If I just can have this or have that or be this or be that. What if in this moment, right now, right here, I was free? What would that be like? Then allow yourself to go into the next moment. Because it feels good, actually. You sort of want to carry it into the next moment. What if I let go? If I let go of that story here for a while, pick it up later if I want. But right now, I'm going to let it go. What would it be like to be free right now? Because that is the opportunity that this land gives you. And of course, makes your asanas better as well. Because when you're not holding on to all sorts of things in your muscles and tendons and parts of the body, you are able to bend deeper. But Pujya Swamiji always says, bending the ego is actually much more important to yoga than bending the knees or bending the back. being flexible in my life is actually more important to yoga than being flexible in my limbs. If you can learn that, that's the most important. And that's what this sacred land really offers, is that opportunity. Because you know, as you're going into an asana, a lot of times the teacher will say, have a deep exhalation, right? And drop deeper into it. We all know in an asana, for example, with an exhalation, I can frequently drop much deeper into it. I can get a better stretch. Well, the same is true if I'm able to exhale my anger. If I'm able to exhale my story, if I'm able to exhale all of that I'm holding on to, it allows me to drop deeper into my life. And that is what you get to go home with. So we have time for one more question. Yes. Great. It's so beautiful because it's actually so simple. If we went around the room and we said, okay, throw out all of the problems that our world is facing today, all of the things that you'd want to change. In the interest of time, I won't do that, but because there's a lot, I know, but they would focus on, and if I'm leaving anything out that's super important, feel free to shout it out, but they would focus on violence, big-scale violence, small-scale violence, religious violence, gender-based violence, whatever it is, violence. It would focus on environmental destruction, everything that is happening. It would focus on inequality, poverty, hunger, lack. It would focus on corruption in our political systems, in economic systems. It would focus on depression, which most of us wouldn't necessarily think of as a global problem, but it actually is, the epidemic of depression and all of that associated with it, addiction, is actually epidemic in enough places to be something that really needs to be taken seriously. And what all of these have in common, the thread that runs through them all, is separation. I feel separate from myself, separate from the world around me, separate from God by any name, any form, whatever my religion or spiritual tradition may be. Therefore, I am depressed and miserable. Therefore, I need something to make me feel full, or at least numb and forget how depressed I feel. Therefore, I abuse alcohol, abuse drugs, abuse food, gamble, shop too much. Whatever it may be that I do that harms myself, harms the world. Take that to a bigger level. Those people, of that color, of that religion, of that country. They are the problem for us. Therefore, we need to fight them, kill them, keep them out. Separation. Us, them. So it begins on an internal level, an individual level. I feel separate from others. Then there becomes a little we, but we are separate from them. On a community level, then on a national level. Leading to wars. Leading to our ability to go to sleep at night while tens of thousands of children are dying of starvation every day and 1 billion people are sleeping hungry. If we really felt like they are us, we couldn't do that. So that separation enables us to continue on with the status quo, despite what those who are not us are going through. Take it a step farther. Us and Mother Earth. Well, environmental destruction is only possible because we feel separate from Mother Earth. Because we feel separate from our water, from our air, from our soil, from our trees. There's that beautiful quotation about the frog that never drinks up the well in which it lives, right? It understands. I need this water. But we don't feel that connection. We feel very, very separate. And so yoga as union really is the answer to all of this. If I feel united within myself, united to the divine just within me even, well, as I connect with God, something very beautiful happens simultaneously, which is I start connecting to the world around me, because we understand that if I'm one with God, so are you. There's no vision or version of God that says, I'll be one with you, but not you. So yeah, you're divine, but not you. We may have dogma that tells us that. I'm not saying we don't have religions that say that. But there's no personal, real, deep, felt sense of oneness and connection with God, in which I have an experience of being somehow a favorite, in which I have somehow an experience of being one with God that is different from God's ability to be one with others. If the experience is real, it comes with it an awareness that that same oneness is true for everyone. They may not know it yet. They may not necessarily have all experienced it. But I at least know it's true. Which means that I'm going to understand that everybody's divine. Now, I may not necessarily be evolved enough on a spiritual path that I actually see the divine in everyone. That's our goal. But if I at least know it, I'm going to move through the world with an awareness that my goal is to see that divine in all. And the minute I start to be able to do that, well, I start to see a oneness with you. Because if I'm one with God, and I realize that you're one with God, whether you know it or not, well, then I'm one with you, right? It's like basic math. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. If I'm one with God, you're one with God, then I'm one with you. And as my experience of oneness grows, so does my experience of oneness with the world. And a couple of things happen from that. Number one, I feel full. I feel enough. I feel complete. Regardless of how much I make or what I look like, My external situation may not have changed, but my internal one has, which means that I no longer need the drugs or the alcohol or the chocolate cake or the pornography or the hundreds of shopping bags or the gambling to feel okay. It also means that I'm not living in fear. I'm living in faith. I'm living in a connection to creation. And it's fear that gets co-opted into us versus them violence. That's all it is. If I'm not afraid, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to co-opt me into either engaging in or permitting violence against other people who are the threats. I'm only going to do it or allow others to do it on my behalf, allow it to exist, if inside me I feel afraid. Because we all need a scapegoat. So hence we get violence. And then of course we also move into our connection with Mother Earth. I no longer need to literally gobble up the world around me in order to feel full. And so I experience that oneness with Mother Earth. I tread lightly. As they say, I live simply so that others may simply live. I don't need to keep buying more things to feel okay. I don't need to feel domination over something in order to feel powerful. I understand that my power comes from my ability to love, my ability to have compassion, not my ability to destroy. And so that union, that oneness, and also as I'm connected to God, I realize that the creation itself is sacred. You know, it's like if you love someone, you love your child, and your child has done you've got a young child in kindergarten, and your child has done all kinds of scribbly drawings that look like absolute trash to anyone other than you. And somebody comes in to help you clean the house and starts to, gather up all of your kids' scribbles. He goes, no, wait. Those are my daughter's drawings. Those are my son's drawing. Wait, those are precious. And the person may look at you like you're nuts, but this is nothing. This is scribbles on a page. But to you, because you love the creator of those scribbles on the page, it's precious. You'll put them on the fridge, you'll save them, you'll laminate them, you'll make sure to store them away forever. Every time you move, you'll make sure that that box comes with you. Can't get rid of that. Those are your scribbles. Yeah, I mean, we all do it. But we do it because we love the creator of the scribbles. And in the same way, the more connected I get to the divine, the more in love with creation I become. The more protective of creation I become. It's like, oh yeah, you were made by my beloved. You were made by my beloved. You were made by my beloved. Yeah. I'm not going to let anybody hurt you. Just like I'm not going to let anybody tear up what my kid drew. Because I'm in love with and connected to and one with the creator of that. And this is where spiritual practice is the answer to everything that ails us. But yoga, lastly, yoga actually has one other piece to it, which is, if you look at Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and you look at the 8 limbs of yoga that he gave us, it's actually really simple. 8 limbs of yoga. Beginning with yam and niyam, the do's and don'ts, moving up all the way through samadhi, right? Well, asana is limb number 3. It's good, it's important, but anybody who's trying to construct anything knows you can never begin on the 3rd floor. If you want to build a house and you say to your architect, nah, I'm not so interested in floor 1 and 2, forget it, let's start on floor 3. Right? Your architect would say, oh, I think you're unclear on the concept. No can do. Not only do you need floor 1 and 2, but they have to be strong, because if they're not, if you say to your architect, you know, spend 98% of the money I'm paying you on floor 3, cut lots of corners in floor 1 and 2, it's okay, nobody goes there anyway, I don't really care. Well, if the architect is honest, what he or she is going to say is, well, ma'am, sir, if I do that, the minute the wind blows, your whole building's going to come down. Because actually floor 1 and 2 are what hold it up. Your floor 3 is only as good as floor 1 and 2 are. You need that foundation to be strong. And so long before we can get to asana, we have to begin with yam and niyam, which we don't have time to go into now, except they begin with nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-hoarding, right? I mean, okay, we'll stop there, but if we simply took those, okay, say you're not going to do self-study, you're not going to surrender, fine. If we simply began with the first 3 or 4 yamas, every single thing that is wrong with our world today on the outside would be fixed. And if I actually go through all 10 of them, everything on the inside would be fixed as well. Long before I ever need to bend my knees or bend over. That gets to be done in celebration of the fact that everything else has already been done. So that by the time I actually reach samadhi, it's not a samadhi in a vacuum. It's not, oh, this is such a great bliss. And yeah, I'm able to be in samadhi even though the rest of the world is suffering and dying. What a feat. I've managed to separate myself so completely with the rest of the world that even though acres of rainforest have been chopped down since I began this sentence, forget since we began satsang, even though every moment women are dying in childbirth, children are dying of starvation, I've been able to find samadhi. That is not the highest spiritual calling of our world today. There may have been a time when that was the highest calling. Our world today is not calling for us to be able to figure out how to be in samadhi regardless of what is happening to the rest of the world. Our world today is calling us through our yoga, through our experience of our oneness with God, through our peace, through our samadhi, to actually be able to bring about change, to be tools, instruments, agents of change in the world. That's the yoga that is needed today. So it's not about my peace, my bliss. Yeah, the rest of the world can, live in the hell of their own making. No problem. It must be their karma. No. That union, that oneness is something that enables me to know who I am. That wholeness, that fullness, that completeness that enables me to be so grounded and anchored in my truth, my divinity, my power, that I'm actually able to be a light for all. The light that I light today, the light that I become today, is not a light that stays in a cave forever. You may have to light it in the cave. It's less windy in there. So nothing wrong with going there temporarily. But from the cave, we emerge as the light to bring that to the world. And that is what the yoga of today is requiring of us. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. And we'll see you tomorrow. And if you have